Welcome back to another video, guys. So this is going to be very different from what I typically do, and I first off want to set just sort of the reason why we're doing this. I am never locked down to one way of selling timber. Ultimately, my goal is always to get the landowner the most amount of money and have the cleanest possible transaction. And so because of that, there are scenarios that it doesn't make sense to do a typical timber sale the way I do them. And this is one of those scenarios. So we are actually out in Chicago area, in Indiana yet, but this particular client had a very unique property. It's not a large property, but it had giant timber on it, and it was all white oak. It's one of the more strange properties I've been on, in that just like every tree is a white oak. Frankly, it's probably not even healthy. The amount, it's way overstocked. It's very large timber. But right off the bat, a couple things. This landowner's goal is not wildlife improvement. He did not buy this property to hunt. He doesn't really care about that side of things. He's bought it as an investment, first off. And second, it has a resort and lodge on it, and he's gonna be turning it into a restaurant. Second of all, there's a lot of really, really big trees. They're actually way past the prime. They should have been cut a long time ago. But with them being all white oak like this, they are extremely valuable trees, especially when you're talking about 30, 35 inches DBH. And so, the client had to come out, basically assess the timber, because he felt like he was getting shorted on the offers he was receiving. And after cruising the timber, I agreed. His offers were laughable, to be honest. I mean, it was terrible. And so, I kind of told him what I thought the timber would be worth. Basically, we're coming in here, cutting the trees that were marked according to what he wanted to do with the property. And I'm simply cutting the trees, charging him, per tree, what it costs to get the log cut, drug out, my equipment cost, and then bringing in the buyers and marketing it for him on his behalf. And again, this is a very one-off scenario, but this is something that Bill Winke used to do. He built relationships with the amount of properties he had with the end buyers, and so he would simply subcontract a crew to come in and cut for him, not based off a percentage, but simply based off of their labor. And that is a big difference on what the landowner is going to pay in expenses and what he's going to end up in his pocket. So again, this doesn't really work when you're dealing with, for example, 200,000 board feet in Southern Ohio, that it's average timber. The overhead on that is so significant that you're better off just doing a sale the way I've been doing them. But this is a very one-off scenario where you have a handful, and I say a handful, 140, 150 trees that are extremely large. And the same would apply for, I looked at a walnut job a while back that was the same way. Just a bunch of very large walnut, $150,000 worth of timber there, and it would take a week to get that timber out. And rather than giving somebody 50% of that, saying, hey, here's 20 grand, come out, cut the trees for me, get them out, and then you get to pocket the rest. So I want to emphasize, this is not most people's scenario. But if you find yourself with a lot of really, really high-end timber, this is the way to maximize those dollars and end up with the most in your pocket at the end of the day. So enough chat. I got to get back to work, keep cutting, and I'll probably do a little bit of an update here as we're kind of finishing up with the actual cutting, and show you what the sale end of it looks like, with the logs all laid out and stuff. So back at it. Okay, so it's a couple days later now. We got all those trees cut in 3.5 days. Now they were long 3.5 days, but we got it done. And that just goes to show you how little overhead a company moving in here, you know, how short a time that would take. You know, a regular crew that's not working from daylight to dark might take them a full week or something, but you know, nothing significant. But basically, you know, what we're doing here is you have several options. You can sell the pile as a whole, and it's a little bit easier. You're going to find more buyers that way, but you're also going to be probably not maximizing it quite as much. So you're still kind of buying or selling to a third party that will then, you know, sell off the logs for the veneer and the quarter logs and all these different cuts of the timber. You can go to the full extreme of if you've got all the connections in the area where you can cut off the veneer, cut off the quarter logs, cut off the grade logs and the top logs, and sell each part to a different mill. We're kind of in the middle. I've got some connections with some of the veneer buyers, but you know, some of the top logs I'm going to struggle in this area to know exactly where to take them all. And so what we're doing with this is we are kind of separating out the veneer off of this tract, and we'll have veneer buyers come in and place bids on just the veneer, and then we've got guys that, you know, will place a bid on the remaining of the logs, and a lot of those will be quarter sawn. There might be some stave mixed in, which are used for whiskey barrels. And then you've got a lot of this particular job. Once they get further up into the tree, it got a little bit rougher. So so that's kind of the general procedure. And so there's, you know, different variations. It kind of comes down to the connections you have to buyers. If this was a tract at home, you know, I've got all my connections there, would have no problem, you know, just completely maximizing it out. And that's what I've done with my personal properties when I go to harvest them. And frankly, a lot of the times at home, the standing buyers are so competitive that, you know, me doing it myself, yes, I make a little bit more money, but it's not super significant, like almost not enough to really screw with the amount of time that it takes. The reason I do it though is simply because of getting it done quickly, especially if it's a property I plan to flip. But then also, you know, I can put my little personal touches on stuff above and beyond what a normal crew I would be able to get them to do. So but yeah, we basically have it all separated now. We're kind of wrapping up, cleaning up the pile. We got buyers coming out here in about an hour, and we'll kind of see where this comes in at. Ended up scaling at 90,000 board feet. So a little bit less than what I initially thought, but still going to do really, really well. So yeah, I'm excited to see where the bids come in, and I'll give you an update here once we see what they do. So we're heading back home. We had the sale this morning. Got 3 bids in, and yeah, the landowner did pretty decent. Maybe not quite as well as what we initially thought. The market's at a little bit of a weird spot right now, and some of the white oak stuff is maybe not quite as strong as it had been, but it's still doing really well. Some of the local markets, you know, it's interesting in each different area how the markets are different, and you know, definitely eye-opening to me. You know, we're out here in Western Indiana. The market difference there from out here to, you know, say Ohio is fairly significant. So actually, most of these going to end up being trucked back to Ohio, just because there's stronger markets in that area for this stuff. So but yeah, you know, basically the way it, you know, came out, the landowner doing the sale this way, and you know, if you can find somebody to just simply cut the timber at a reasonable rate, you know, it's going to end up being a lot more money in the pocket of the landowner for this really high-end stuff. You know, again, you know, we spent 3.5 days cutting that timber. It just doesn't take that much time. You end up just with so much, you know, money left in the pockets of the loggers. And so, you know, in this scenario, I think, you know, what I ended up getting paid to do the cutting and stuff is like just over 20%, and is what it equates to. And you know, most guys are going to be doing, if you're lucky, 60-40. So double what I did. And you know, for me, it's still, you know, 3.5 days. I'm happy with, you know, that the amount that was being able to be made in that amount of time. It's just not necessary for a logger to be, you know, walking away with half of it when their overhead's so low. So I appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned. We'll keep posting content. We got some interesting stuff coming up. I'll see you in the next one.